Here we go. When Helicity was little, she happened upon the carcass of a dead rabbit. It had been ripped open from throat to crotch by some wild animal, its blood-soaked guts surrounded by soft white fur. That's what our town looked like now, as if the claw of some gigantic creature had torn through it, leaving a horror show of mutilation framed by pristine countryside and farmland. Mom, Andy, Dad. Helicity slid off the boulder, ignoring the lingering pain in her tailbone and the bruises from the hail. She ran for the trailhead and continued down the hillside. Her wet clothes clung to her and made her limbs heavy and difficult to move, but she didn't stop. Adrenaline was driving her. When she reached the fallen tree, she scrambled over, shoving aside the branches that grabbed at her arms and scratched her sides and face. She slipped on a patchy rock of soil and nearly fell, but that didn't slow her pace. Mom, Andy, Dad. The names rolled through her mind, repeated in sync with her footfalls. The hill trail ended in a small dirt parking lot. It was empty of cars. She swore under her breath. Her wild hope that someone would be there who could drive her home dashed. Mom, Andy, Dad. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. She ran on, aiming for an almost overgrown field. Crossing it instead of going to the road would cut the distance home in half. Her boots, so perfect for riding, now made her feet and calves ache. She could feel blisters, hot and painful, forming on her heels, but she did not stop. She pushed through prickers and scrub and emerged next to the dirt road she and Raven had taken the hill earlier. She threaded through a rusty barbed wire fence and picked up her speed. Mom, Andy, Dad. A few miles outside of town, a police car roared up next to her, its blue lights flashing. "You live in town?" the officer yelled from the open window. Too winded to answer, she nodded. He stopped the car and pushed open the passenger door. "Get in!" She slid onto the seat and slammed the door behind her. "Mom, Andy, Dad," she gasped as she fastened her seatbelt. "I have to find my family." He thrust a bottle of water into her hand. "Drink," he instructed her as he hit the accelerator. She took a sip, coughing as the liquid hit her parched throat. "Take deep breaths," the officer advised. Sandy hair, blue-eyed eyes, and muscular. He looked to be only a few years older than Andy. His voice was calm and soothing. "Good. Now, who are you?" "Helicity. Helicity Dunlap. Please, my family." "Okay, Helicity, I'm Officer Pete. I'm going to take you to the high school. The tornado didn't hit it, so that's where everybody has been told to go. It's where your family will be if..." He didn't finish his sentence, but Helicity knew what he'd been about to say. If they could get there. If they survived. If. They rode in silence after that. Dirt gave way to pavement, and then Pete turned onto the town's main road. "Oh my gosh!" Helicity sucked in her breath as she tried to process the wreckage before her. A two-story brick building that had stood for more than a century had been obliterated, but for the remains of one wall. Further on, a row of stately older wooden homes had been reduced to kindling. The contents, furniture, appliances, clothing, photographs, flung everywhere. Uprooted trees had smashed through rooftops, and in one case landed on a car flipped on its side. Patio furniture, swing sets, bicycles lay wherever the twister had hurled them. Helicity tried to make sense of what she was seeing. "Please just get me to my family." They rode in silence the rest of the way. Pete parked in the high school side lot next to the football field. She leaped out before he even cut the engine. "Helicity, wait!" She ignored him, and he ran to the front entrance. Throngs of people, all wearing the same dazed, terrified expressions, pushed around her. She ducked through them and squeezed into the school lobby. Last names, I through P, gymnasium. Q through Z, auditorium, a voice said over the loudspeaker. A through H, cafeteria. I through P, gymnasium. Helicity wove her way through the crowd to the cafeteria. Inside was more chaos. Children cried and whined, ignoring their parents, half-hearted attempts to hush or comfort them. Adults paced back and forth, yelling into their phones, fingers jammed into their ear to block out the surrounding noise. Many looked frustrated, and Helicity guessed that most of the calls were not getting through because the nearest cell tower had been taken out in the storm. Men, women, and children slumped at the tables, leaned against the walls, and sat on the floor. Some were wrapped in blankets. Others held dripping ice packs, blood-stained paper towels, or coffee cups. Helicity's eyes darted around, searching faces, praying to see her parents and Andy. She heard her mother's voice and whirled toward the sound, hope surging within her. But it was another woman, calling for a different girl, a girl named Felicity. Panic replaced hope. She pushed her way deeper into the cafeteria, still searching. The smell hit her the moment she waded into the sea of people. Industrial cleaner that did nothing to mask the stink of sour body odor, soiled diapers, fresh vomit, and fear. She breathed through her mouth, but bile rose in her throat, and all the same. Her mouth filled with saliva, and she broke out in a cold sweat. Swallowing hard, she fought her body's urge to throw up. The loudspeaker crackled, making her jump. She couldn't make out the announcement, but suddenly people surged toward the side of the cafeteria. Someone jostled her, and she stumbled sideways into a table. Her knee slammed against the hard plastic seat. She saw stars, and then the room started spinning. The smell, the noise, the pain, the humid heat from the crush of bodies around her. It was all too much. Her vision narrowed to a tunnel, and she pitched forward. "Helicity!" Someone grabbed her from behind, spun her around, and wrapped her in a crushing embrace. The tunnel receded. Helicity choked on a sob. "Mom!" She clung to her mother, breathed in her familiar scent, and let the warm comfort wash over her. "Mom!" "You're safe," Mrs. Dunlap murmured over and over. "Oh, my darling girl, you're safe." Mr. Dunlap appeared. "Thank God," he said, really flooding his face when he saw his daughter. He kissed the top of her head and smoothed her hair, then looked around the area. "Wait, where's Andy?" Helicity stiffened. "Isn't he here with you?" Mrs. Dunlap pulled back and stared down at her, frowning. "No, when he realized you weren't in your room, he went looking for you." Helicity's blood froze in her veins. "What? When?" "Right after the emergency alert came over his phone. He grabbed the car keys, said he knew where you were, and took off to get you. I tried to stop him, but..." Her mother waved her hands helplessly. "You're telling me he didn't bring you here?" her father said. Eyes wide, Helicity shook her head. Mrs. Dunlap's voice took a hard edge. "He said he texted you. You texted him back, told him where you were, didn't you? Didn't you?" "Where are you?" An image of Andy's message flashed through her mind. So did her phone's screen, going black. I tried. My battery." Helicity couldn't finish the sentence because she was on the verge of tears. "My gosh!" Frustration and fury warred with concern on her father's face. He turned on his heel and shoved through a group of people to a table with a hastily written sign, "Missing Persons." The sign said. Mrs. Dunlap grabbed Helicity's hand and they hurried after him. "I'm looking for my son Andy. Andrew Dunlap." Her father told the woman behind the table. "He was out looking for my daughter when the tornado hit." "And your daughter?" "She's fine," he said curtly. "My son's the one who's missing." Now Helicity let the tears come. "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry." Her mother folded back her arms, but this time the embrace was tight with tension. The woman's fingers flew over the keyboard of her laptop. Mr. Dunlap came around to her side and leaned forward, his eyes reflecting the screen's glow. All at once, his face contorted as if he was being tortured. "Oh, gosh, what is it? What does it say?" Helicity's mother cried. "Come on," Mr. Dunlap rounded the table. "We have to get to the hospital." Mrs. Dunlap clutched his hand. "What does it say?" "They found him inside his car." He shot Helicity a look. "What's left of it?" Helicity's mother gasped and pressed her fist up to her mouth. "Is he... Oh, God, tell me that he's all right." "He's at the hospital, in surgery. Now, let's go. Move." Wow, that was a lot to take in for that chapter. So Andy's in the hospital, and Helicity is kind of feeling like it might be her fault. All right, we will do chapter 4 tomorrow.